Hi, my name is Stephanie Matthews, co-founder of Save10.
And I'm Sarah Catherine Gutierrez, Save10 co-founder, and we are here to bring urgent student loan information on the Public Service Loan Forgiveness, or PSLF's, limited waiver opportunity to educators throughout Arkansas. Sponsored by the Department of Education and in partnership with the Women's Foundation of Arkansas. Everything we discuss here for educators will apply to educators in other states, employees of districts, and any employee in any nonprofit or state and local government agency.
SC and I just wrapped up a 2-week tour across the state, speaking to nearly 5,000 teachers. And more important than what we said is what we heard. One woman raised her hand and announced $50,000 was just forgiven. Another said $80,000 was forgiven, and a principal had $120,000 forgiven. Dozens had already experienced the power of the limited waiver, but so many more had not even heard of it, even though this opportunity expires in October.
That's right, Stephanie, and we had the opportunity to workshop loans after a few of our talks, and while most of the loans we saw would get people a few years from forgiveness, I was always shocked and frankly terrified when we delivered the news that if they took the action in our toolkit, that they would get full forgiveness on their loans right away.
Terrified? Why is that, SC?
Because I think of all the people out there whose loans could go away that we were not reaching. As of the spring, only 15% of the estimated eligible employees for PSLF were getting their employment counted. The limited waiver that is so profoundly impacting people's loans was announced in October of last year, yet just this month, the federal government sent out an email encouraging folks to take advantage of it. With only 2 months left for people to take action. That's why we're doing this video. Now you don't have to be sitting in an audience to know how you can benefit. Because of the work of the Arkansas Department of Education, the Women's Foundation of Arkansas, and Save10, public servants throughout Arkansas and beyond can learn what you need to do to act fast. A word of warning from someone who is wildly optimistic that things will work themselves out, even if you wait until the last minute. From one procrastinator to another, I gotta tell you, you'll be left behind. Those stories of forgiveness that we hope come to fruition will take elbow grease, effort, and perseverance. You'll probably have to read through the toolkit we'll reference several times throughout this talk. You might have to Google things and call your servicer when things don't make sense. But on the other side of this, there's freedom. Student loans are a terrible burden. As financial planners, we see the toll they take on people. We want these gone so you can passionately pursue the career you got the education for in the first place. So let's first get on the same page with what PSLF is. This is a program that was first announced in 2007. The program allows eligible borrowers to cancel their remaining balance on their direct loans after serving full-time at a public service organization for at least 10 years while making 120 qualifying monthly payments after October the 1st, 2007. The loans that get forgiven are not taxed when they go away, making this an even more valuable benefit than on face value. So it sounds easy enough, but don't be fooled. 98% of people who applied for forgiveness in 2018, that first year that they would have been eligible, were denied. What they learned is how unforgiving this program is, and they were denied without explanation for any number of PSLF sins, from the wrong loan type to the wrong repayment program, to paying 2 days late, to paying a partial payment. The list goes on. We do not want this to happen to you. So here are the 4 things that must be true as you pursue loan forgiveness. First, you must have a direct loan, the only loan eligible for PSLF. It can't be a federal family education loan referred to as an FFEL loan. It can't be a Perkins loan. If you have the wrong loan, you must consolidate your loan immediately to get it converted to a direct loan. Next, you must be in a qualifying repayment plan or one of the 4 types of income-driven repayment plans. Commit these to memory because if you accidentally choose the wrong repayment plan, you could lose precious time. These qualifying plans are income-based repayment, pay-as-you-earn, revised pay-as-you-earn, and income contingent repayment. The acronyms are IBR, Payee, Repayee, and ICR. An income-driven payment simply means that instead of calculating how much you pay based on the loan amount, The government calculates what you can pay based on a formula that each separate payment plan applies to your income. You'll have the opportunity to run a payment calculator through your studentaid.gov account, and your job is to choose the lowest payment option every year. That will both give you credit towards your 120 payments, and you'll be maximizing forgiveness by paying as little as possible. Next, you must make 120 payments. These are cumulative payments that coincided when you worked in public service. They do not have to be consecutive. Finally, you must certify your time working for qualified employers. The government doesn't even pretend to know you work in public service, even though you file a tax return saying as much. The only way the government will trigger a payment count on your loans is for the years you have certified your employment. While loans can date back to the 90s, the only eligible employment time is since October of 2007 when PSLF began. So let's take the example of a school nurse who worked for 2 different districts and a nonprofit hospital in between. She would fill out a separate employment certification form for all 3 past employers, have them sign and verify that employment, and then she would submit those forms to prove employment. If she had everything else right, but then didn't take this step to certify employment, she will not be eligible for PSLF. Folks, we see this every day. Most people are not taking all the steps necessary to be positioned for PSLF, even though they may think they are. Maybe you have been paying on your loans for over 10 years, so you would have 120 or more payments to count toward forgiveness. But do you have the right types of loans? Are you in an income-driven repayment plan? Are you certifying employment history in public service? If not, then the 10 years of payments count for nothing when it comes to PSLF. But right now, if you get these things right with your student loans today, all of those years of past payments will count towards your 120 payments that you need for forgiveness. Folks, this is not the norm. This is a rare opportunity. Normally, if you took action to get your loans positioned for PSLF, your payment count would start at 0, even if you had been paying for several years. But since March 2020, the government has taken some pretty crazy actions to benefit PSLF folks. That's why most of you watching this video probably won't be starting at 0. That's why some of you watching this video who would be starting at 0 in normal PSLF times could be looking at full and immediate elimination of your debt. As I said earlier, we have met with your fellow educators who are seeing immediate forgiveness of their student loans because they have taken action over these last few months. So this may be where you want to pause the video and grab a pen and paper so that you can note what you need to do. While we do have a toolkit that we are directing you to, this world is so confusing and the language so alien that it might take hearing and reading about this several times to get a sense of how this thing is going to work. Be prepared to replay this video and read the toolkit as many times as it takes for you to feel comfortable with taking action. Let's begin with what happened in March 2020. The government realized that this pandemic would have a serious impact on finances, so it decided to put all direct loans into COVID forbearance with 0% interest and 0 payments. But they went further and made all those $0 payments eligible for PSLF credit. So some of you have had your student loan payments shut off since March 2020, yet each month that you make a $0 payment, it counts toward the 120 payments you need for PSLF. Importantly, for this conversation, we started to really understand how much the government disliked those FFEL and the Perkins loans. For folks who had not consolidated them into a direct loan before March of 2020, they had to stay in repayment, might still be in repayment. So if you did not have your payments frozen in March of 2020, that may be a good indication that you have one of these FFEL or Perkins loans that we're talking about. The government continued to extend COVID forbearance to direct loan holders, and to this day, they are not in repayment. Then, in October of last year, came the biggest announcement to fundamentally change the fortunes of public service workers with student loan debt. This was the limited waiver, a waiver that would get applied for 1 year only. For anyone who got their loans right, meaning they had direct loans or consolidated their loans into a direct consolidation loan, got into an income-driven repayment plan, and certified their past employment, the government would then manually count every single payment they ever made while in public service since 2007. So FFEL and Perkins loan holders who consolidate and get their loans into a direct loan could have all those payments that were previously ineligible count. People who were in the wrong repayment plan, like extended, graduated, or standard repayment plans, could suddenly have all those payments count. The government has been very clear that this is a one-time benefit, and that anyone who does not take action correctly before the end of October will lose the opportunity to have all that time count towards their 120 payments. For many who have been paying on their loans a long time, this could be the difference between having your loans forgiven immediately or starting over from year one of a 10-year repayment for forgiveness. This is why it is so shocking that so few people have taken action to benefit from this limited waiver, let alone even heard about this. But wait, there's more. Shockingly, in the spring, the government made another surprise announcement benefiting a larger group of student loan holders, but with even more help for those pursuing PSLF. In April, they said that folks who got their loans right and certify employment would get bonus months for any time spent in forbearance prior to the COVID forbearance that started in March of 2020. Up to 36 months of credit. It's crazy to think that someone who might have gotten their loans in 2017 could have been in forbearance for 3 years, then entered a COVID forbearance for another 3 years, and maybe end up with 6 years of credit towards PSLF without ever making a payment. So if they just paid correctly on their loans for 4 more years, those loans would be gone. Whoa. There's one caveat. You will not get credit for time spent in in-school forbearance. I hope you can all see why this is so urgent and so big. Stephanie, I'm turning this over to you now to explain to people how they can get their loans right and trigger this limited waiver to manually count their payments.
Let's talk about the actions that you can take today to get positioned for PSLF. Before we get into the weeds, I want to point you to the PSLF toolkit that we, along with other national student loan experts, have put together for you. Think of this as your PSLF Bible. You need to read this in full and maybe even read it multiple times so that you are comfortable with the process. You can access this toolkit using the QR code on the screen or at www.womensfoundationarkansas.org/save10. I think it's important for you to decide if you are willing to commit the time it takes to pursue loan forgiveness. As SC said, this is not a passive process. If all goes 100% smoothly, this whole process may take less than an hour for you. If you have to reset your studentaid.gov account, get on the phone with your servicer, track down past employers, or experience any other hiccups, this may take several hours or even a whole weekend. So you have to decide if it's worth it. We obviously think it is, or we wouldn't be on a mission to get this information to you. So if you're listening to this and you did not have your student loan payments frozen in March of 2020, that is a great indication that you have FFEL or Perkins loans. Remember, you need to have direct loans to be eligible for PSLF. So the first step you will need to take is to consolidate your loans. You are essentially turning those old FFEL or Perkins loans into direct loans through this process. If you are completely unsure of what types of loans you have, you can read the toolkit about how to find this information through your studentaid.gov account. Another option is to call your servicer. This is the company that you receive student loan statements from. It might be Great Lakes, FedLoan, Nelnet, or one of several others. Call them and ask them what types of loans you have. Don't stop there. Ask them explicitly. Do I have FFEL loans? Do I have any FFEL consolidation loans? Do I have any Perkins loans? Remember, the only types of loans you want for PSLF are direct loans or direct consolidation loans, which may be subsidized and/or unsubsidized. If you have any other loans aside from direct or direct consolidation loans, then you need to consolidate. If you have multiple direct loans, so more than one subsidized and one unsubsidized direct loan, you will want to consolidate as well so that you can get credit applied to all loans for payments made on the oldest loan. Note that if you have Parent Plus loans, this is not something we're going to go into great detail on because it's a bit more nuanced, but there are resources in the toolkit that you will need to explore, especially the PSLF support group that we mentioned. So if you need to consolidate your loans, you will do the consolidation through your studentaid.gov account under Manage My Loans. There are tips about this process in the toolkit. You also can go through a demo of the process on studentaid.gov. As part of the consolidation process, you will be asked if you want to have a grace period for processing your application. No, the response is do not delay processing. Remember, you only have until October to complete each step of this process, so we can't have any delays. You will also be asked to choose your servicer. You need to select Mohila. If you currently are with another servicer, the consolidation will trigger your loans being moved to Mohila. You will also be asked as part of the consolidation application if you are pursuing PSLF. Yes, you are. You are also going to knock out your second step for PSLF, getting into an income-driven repayment plan as part of this consolidation application. Toggle the button next to Show Payment Estimated under Public Service Loan Forgiveness. Remember, as Sarah Catherine said, there are only 4 IDR plans that will always qualify for PSLF: IBR, ICR, Payee, and Repayee. You may not be eligible for all 4 of these, so the website will not display a monthly payment amount for those options. Now, this is important and why you need to be on top of your game and know exactly what you need to do for PSLF. Even though you've just toggled the button to show you plans eligible for PSLF, the website may display other repayment plans that are not PSLF eligible. Don't be tempted to select one of those, even if it shows a lower payment amount. You need to choose one of the 4 repayment plans that we've mentioned. Select one of these qualified plans with the lowest estimated monthly payment. Like SC said, your goal is to pay as little as possible toward your student loans so that you have the most forgiven. After submitting your consolidation application, you need to wait. It takes 30 days for a consolidation to go through. But there are things you can do while you're waiting. By completing the consolidation application, you will have completed 2 of the 3 actions required for PSLF: getting into direct loans and choosing an income-driven repayment plan. Your final step is to certify all of your eligible employment since 2007. You can start working on that while you wait a month for your consolidation to complete. Go to studentaid.gov/PSLF to use the PSLF help tool that will guide you through filling out the employment certification. At the end of that process, you will have generated a pre-filled form that needs to be sent to each of your employers since October 1st, 2007. For some of you, that may be your current employer. For some of you, that may mean that you need 10 employer signatures. I met with an educator a few weeks ago with $160,000 in student loans, and she had everything in order for PSLF except her employment certification. Once she completes that, all of her loans will go away. All $160,000. I told her that. I said, you just need to take these forms and get them signed by your past employers. And she said, you mean I have to track down 3 signatures for all of this? And I said, yes, if you want to have $160,000 in loans forgiven. So again, you are going to have to decide if you are willing to put in the work to make this happen. There are some things that I want you to note about this employment certification form, and you need to make sure they're done right. These have to be wet signatures. That means your employer cannot stamp their signature. So make sure that's the case before you submit the form. Also, there can be no scratch outs or corrections made to the form. It will be rejected. So you need to make sure when you're using the PSLF help tool to complete this form that if you are not 100% certain of the dates you worked somewhere, then you need to call and confirm your dates of employment before filling out that form. If the government rejects your form, it's not as if they're going to notify you. You just won't get credit. And if you don't find out until after October when the waiver expires, it's too late. Your clock will start at 0. So if you have to consolidate your loans, I want you to set a calendar reminder for 30 days later. By that time, you should have all of your signatures from your employers and be ready to submit those forms. Follow the instructions under Section 7 of the form. If your loans have moved to Mohila, use the upload option. If after 30 days your loans have not yet moved to Mohila, or if you did not need to consolidate your loans, then we encourage you to send your employment certification forms to Mohila via first-class mail with delivery confirmation. It costs about $8, but you can track it and know that it was delivered. Make sure to hold on to copies of these forms for your records. Again, the toolkit has all of this information and more about submitting your employment certification forms, also called the PSLF application. It is critical that if you have multiple forms, because you've had multiple employers, that you submit all completed PSLF forms at the same time. If you did not need to consolidate your loans, you will need to make sure you are in an income-driven repayment plan. Your servicer can tell you which repayment plan you are in. If it is not IBR, ICR, payee, or repayee, then you need to apply for an income-driven plan. You can do this through your servicer or through your studentaid.gov account. You also will need to submit your employment certification forms as soon as possible, following the process I described just a minute ago. Again, you will find everything you need to know about this in the toolkit. Do not assume that the government is going to get your payment count right. You need to know what your payment history has been and how many payments toward the 120 you can expect. If you receive a letter with a payment count lower than what you anticipated, you may need to take action to get this right. Please read the toolkit about how to do this. Also, note that you likely will receive a letter telling you that you have 0 qualifying payments toward PSLF. Ignore that. It is a standard letter that did not get turned off during COVID forbearance. A few weeks after receiving that letter, you should get another one with an updated payment count. If you are not someone who has been paying on your loans while working in public service for at least 10 years, then you need to know that you will need to take action every year to make sure your payments are being counted toward PSLF. As with everything related to PSLF, calendar reminders are your friend. So set a reminder for each year. Maybe it's the start of the school year, maybe it's when you file your taxes, to complete another employment certification form for the past year. This will ensure every year that you are getting credit for the last 12 months of payments. Remember to take full advantage of this waiver. You need to act now. October 31st is fast approaching, and we don't want you to miss out on what could be a life-changing opportunity. We are recording this video the day after the government made a large announcement around student loans, including the $10,000 forgiveness across the board. Our take on this announcement is that for many folks who don't make much money, payments and income-driven repayment plans could go down significantly, making PSLF even more attractive. We are also looking carefully at the language of forgiveness and have an initial interpretation that the forgiveness would only happen for loans held directly by the federal government, making it apparent that yet again, FFEL and Perkins loan holders would not benefit from this news. In a nutshell, all the advice we just gave would stay the same, but with the deal getting even sweeter for folks who have taken action here and in our toolkit. If after watching this video and reading the toolkit several times, you still have questions, we have resources for you. The best thing you can do on Facebook, in my opinion, is join the PSLF support group. There are 150,000 people in this group who help each other pursue PSLF. You will not hit any bump in this process that hundreds, if not thousands of other people have not dealt with. You can also join us in the Save10 Facebook group. This is for women only. It's where we ask questions and have conversations about personal finance. Over the next few months, we understand that we may see some radical changes to student loans and the PSLF program. We will post regular updates on the Save10 website. Again, you need to start with the toolkit and read it in full after watching this video. You will find links to the resources I just mentioned in the toolkit as well.
We are grateful to Secretary Key and the Arkansas Department of Education for recognizing how life-changing PSLF, especially this limited time waiver, could be for educators across the state. In exchange for these free resources on PSLF, we ask that you please take this quick survey so that we can know it was helpful. Also, you can share with us your email address if you're open to sharing your PSLF journey with us. We hope you will, and we wish you great success with the program.